This is Dolany TV. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome back to part 2 of our offering here on what is the final day of the 2022-2023 season technically, as contracts are set to expire at, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, and the free agent market opens at the exact same time. It's about to be a dang good time to be an Edmonton Oilers fan as we set out on our way to hopefully a Stanley Cup season at the end of 2024 midsummer. So friends, welcome aboard. If you're new to the channel, I want you to consider, I've got this nice new fancy one here, hitting that subscribe button here on the channel. I'd appreciate you being along for the ride the rest of the way home, whether it be just tomorrow, whether it be all summer long into next season. I'd love to have you aboard. And with that, we are not going to waste too much time. I promise you that. I'm going to quickly look at my laptop again and pull up a graphic here, and I'll go behind the graphic and we'll just sit here and chat. What you see behind or in front of me, what I am behind, that is, I guess, what I'm trying to say. We're trying to get going into the non-qualified players today, right? Obviously, we kind of know Connor Brown is the guy that we are targeting when it comes to the end-all be-all of this free agency. We want another D-man. We want another forward. But there are a lot of interesting names here. Younger players that could fill a role, right? They've played in the NHL a few years, but they're younger and they're available to us because of not being qualified by their teams today. So on purpose, I have this graphic in front of me so you can only see my hand really talking because I want to, it's funky how this new system works, but we'll work with it and figure it out. Travis Dermott leads off, number 35. We go down to 50. We'll go from obviously 18 down to 34 and then 1 through 17 in a moment. Austin Wagner, Lieber Hajek, Giovanni Smith, Gustav Lindstrom, right? Stop me when you see a name that you actually are interested in from this roster of players. John Leonard, Gabriel Carlson, Cale Clegg, Victor Mete, Lias Anderson, right? Lias Anderson was a name a few years back, but nothing now. Marian Studenek, Dmitry Samorukov. This will be a name to keep an eye on throughout the summer unless he goes back to Russia. I would expect that the Oilers try to look for a reunion with Samorukov just on a 775, stick him in the minors, because I imagine now that we've lost Klim Kostin, now that he's available again, the Oilers would love to try and pick him back up. And obviously, if the player's outcomes for his career here in his mid-20s have shifted a little bit, right? Maybe tries to take more of a Vinny Desharnais come up when you're 26, 27 role. Well, guess what? That's available to him with the Oilers. And of course, the Bakersfield Condors fans would love to have Samo back to start next year. I can guarantee you that. Joel Teasdale, Damien Giroux, and Philip Kral alongside Mac Hollowell. Well, none of those names outside of Samorukov for obvious purposes really get me excited. So let's go with number 2 sheet here and change that up for you. Oh, I guess that's, I got my ones and twosies backwards. Whoops. All right, number 1. We'll go for the middle guys in a moment. Daniel Sprong, who has been non-qualified offered by the Seattle Kraken, is on top of this list. 46 points in 66 games played, a 14% shooting percentage on a 70 or a 0.7 points per game clip. A guy who played 11 minutes and 25 seconds on average for a very deep, very well-structured Seattle Kraken team this year. Obviously, probably a great target for the Oilers to try and pick up. Daniel Sprong, though, 750 cap hit. Are you really going to, based on these numbers after not being qualified and him being on the open market, going to be able to get him for $775? That is the toughest question, and that's kind of the situation. And here what I'm trying to get at is we're trying to find a guy who we as Oilers fans love, but also can get for $775. That's the key number. You're going to see the more contracts the Oilers sign for $775, the better off we are going into next year. I'll explain as we go along. Christian Fischer, who had 27 points in 80 games, another interesting name, obviously non-qualified, offered by Arizona. I believe there is some negotiations happening there. I read. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a big day on Twitter trying to keep up. And trust me, I had a busy day at work trying to keep up with what we got going on there. Dennis Mulligan, another interesting name as well. a guy who scored .32. So if you add him as your 12th forward, that's not necessarily a bad thing. But again, right, you're probably given that 11-12 forward situation to Raphael Lavoie and Dylan Holloway. So Connor Brown fills in. Bing, bang, boom. Matthias Janmark's back. You're done, right? That's kind of where we sit. So realistically, we're not too worried about it, but we kind of have to be still because in case of injuries strike and you want to have a couple guys around. So then you move down to Klim Kostin, who is non-tendered, right? And obviously he's more than likely going back to Russia if Detroit didn't sign him. Sam Steele of the Minnesota Wild. This is an interesting name to see. Obviously 28 points, an almost half point per game scorer. Center, left wing kind of deal, but he's left shot. So do the Oilers have space for that? We're looking for right shots, right? Mulligan, Fisher, Sprong, they all fit that. And there's a reason why Sprong is getting so much chatter amongst Edmonton Oilers fans and media tonight as we get set up for this free agent window opening at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. So keep that in mind. That is Mountain Time, by the way. And then you go down to Noah Gregor, who I think for fans of the Oilers, knowing Jason Gregor, knowing the whole situation, you would understand that that is an appealing name to us as well, just a hometown guy kind of deal. But what does Noah Gregor really bring to you as a left shot, left wing, and right wing kind of combo? Not much. Although, right, still again, we're talking about bargain bin players here. We're not trying to talk about solving the top six with these guys. Jesper Boquist, another guy there, but a left-hand shot, so we'll just kind of leave that one. Julien Gauthier, a guy who's been around the NHL a million times at this point. Another guy who doesn't really move the needle. Maxime Comtois, another guy that is generating interest, a guy that fans, media think, hey, this is a guy we should be in on. And, right, I'm allowing you to kind of read the stats along with me here, which is nice for a change. But Maxime Comtois, a guy that we could definitely find a role for, a guy who plays a little harder, a guy who is a little tougher to play against in the Oilers or in any lineup. So it would be interesting to see him in an Oilers uniform, but again, a winger, left-hand shot. So Morgan Geekie, this is another name that piqued interest from the Seattle Kraken, 28 points in 69 games. I think there was a lot of shock when Geekie went unqualified, but you look at it here too. Another guy who played 10 minutes and 27 seconds. So productive in minimal minutes, but is it repeatable? That's always the question, right? That was actually the question with Klim Kostin, was would it be repeatable for him to have the season he had, right? The 11 goals, 10 points, 10 assists, 21 points in 57 games for $2 million. Probably not. Why we risk it, right? That was kind of the situation there. So now you move on to guys like Morgan Geekie, guys like Daniel Sprong, guys like, of course, Dennis Mulligan, who are all kind of similar point ranges. And you're like, can they do it? Can't they do it? Who knows? Colin White, another interesting name as well, a right-hand guy, right wing, center kind of guy, good guy to throw in, right? 775, you can probably bite on Colin White. That's a name I'll throw out there that I don't think I've heard. I doubt he's going out there to sign for more than 1.2, or else the Florida Panthers would have qualified him, is what I would say there. Evgeny Svechnikov as well, a guy who's left-hand shot, right? Not really a replacement. We're talking about guys, I guess, to really sum it up, guys who could replace Klim Kostin and in fact do better, right? In a more enhanced role in this Oilers lineup, depending on night in, night out shifts, right? I think Kostin played what per night? Kostin played 10:03, so you're looking at 10, 15 to about 12 is what we're looking for one of these guys to hopefully play to kind of offset the slowdown that maybe Derek Ryan will potentially see this season. You then move down to a name that a lot of people really like, a guy who had an off year in Dallas, in Montreal as well, Denis Gurianov. This is a guy generating a lot of interest across Oilers land as well. Simply put, he's a guy who I think solves a lot of problems for the Oilers if he was a right-hand shot, right? A guy, left-hand shot, but if you can somehow take a 775 bet on yourself 1-year deal contract for Denis Gurianov, I don't see why you wouldn't do it, right? I 100% am in on Gurianov as well. Tyson Jost, another guy who kind of, right, has always been on the outs with his team and doesn't get qualified by Buffalo and ends up with 25 points in 71 games and 0.35 points, playing 13 minutes a night. Competent center, but you got Ryan McLeod in that spot, so move on. Ryan Poling, another guy here who, again, right, kind of similar situation, left-hand shot, competent guy, but we really don't have room for that unless the plans are somewhat different than I think. And Jared Anderson Dolan and, of course, Mason Shaw, neither nor really solved that fit either. So let's go quickly wander over here to qualifying offer number 1 graphic. And there we go. We get this one here. There we go. We've got a name that I really, really like for the Edmonton Oilers. 25-year-old Nathan Bastian, 15 points in 43 games. A guy who played 12.26 a night. A guy who I would not mind picking up for $7.75. Obviously, a guy who was around league minimum to begin with. So to throw him in there, I would not mind that at all. That's another, right? You throw it up there with Gurionov. You throw it up there with Daniel Sprong. You throw it up there with Morgan Geekie. That's a name to keep an eye on tomorrow into the next week as things unfold. Kevin Stenlund, not really a name to keep in mind either. Well, just a guy who played games for Winnipeg, but again, point production isn't there. And that's what I'm looking to replace on the right-hand side. Looking to shore that up and bring it up a little bit. Because you know Derek Ryan's going to be good for what he's good for, but not much more. And the uncertainty around Connor Brown being an Edmonton Oiler on the right wing top line or second line, you got to somehow boost up those numbers just a little bit. Yes, Puljujärvi, 75 points. Oh, wait, he's injured. He's going for double hip something. We don't need a reunion anyway. Move on. Michael McLeod. Ooh, this is a name that piques a lot of interest. I didn't mention him in the previous video earlier today, but this is a name that piques a lot of interest across Oilers land because of the last name McLeod. He's a centerman as well. Right-hand shot, unlike his brother Ryan. And you know how much parent screen time those guys get. So imagine both parents are cheering for both kids on the same team. Whew, easy go right there for us. And of course, the guy, it fits the bill, right? 80-game guy, 26 points, so that .33 range, right? Perfect. And of course, a guy, too, who throws in 12 minutes and 15 seconds a night. And he's coming off a bad season in the shooting percentage department, 4%. So you expect there would be a rebound there. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 goals. Not out of the question if he can get that going to 12% or thereabouts. So that wouldn't be bad at all. Caleb Jones, again, another guy, I think it was said best somewhere on Twitter today. Just, there's no need. There's no need for the Oilers. Move on. Dylan Gambrell, again, I'm going to move on. Zach McEwen. Okay, didn't know that he didn't get qualified by the Los Angeles Kings, but that would be a name, too, that piques a little bit of my interest, just because he's a rough and tumbly, beat you up, hammer you in the corners kind of guy, and he still contributed 10 points, right? So I wouldn't mind that, but again, $7.75, what's the role? How's it fit? And does that really move the needle? That'll be the question for the Oilers on him, if he's at all even part of discussions, which I doubt he's going to be, because there's some better options up top that we've already discussed. Ethan Bear, Kiefer Bellows, right? Ethan Bear, same thing as Caleb Jones. Rudolph Balkers, a guy who I think 2-3 years ago probably would have loved to talk about signing, but now at 26, 5 points in 17 games, I don't know how much he can really benefit from another left guy like that. Simon Benoit, same thing, leftist kind of guy. Jonah Gadrovic, left-hand shot as well. Logan Brown, left-hand shot. Rasmus Asplund and Anders Bjork, left-hand shots. So when do any of those numbers jump off the page to you? I guess maybe Anders Bjork in Chicago with the 8 points and 14 games played. Sure, that kind of jumps off the board, but Matt Luft is the only other name left. He's a right-hand shot, but there really isn't much to gain from him either. because, right, he had 2 goals in 19 games and shot 10%. So obviously those numbers are all scattered around, and it's kind of a bit of a mess that way, trying to decipher how these players all sort out, especially if they see 81, 82 games in a season. But you kind of get a very good sense, right? There's about 5 targets the Oilers should really, really want. And after that, there's really not much we really have to go out of our way to even talk to. But you never know when you're going to strike gold, right? That's the hardest part of free agency, is it's always the move. If you make multiple that you seem, this whatever move, it seems to pay off the most. So we'll see if the Oilers can find one of those gems in this list of 50 men tonight. But friends, I'm Tyson, this is Stolany TV. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. I am up on out of here.